Hi everyone and welcome back to Let's Play Star Trek Online. In today's video what I've decided to do is I'm going to go through some of my dilithium mining sort of grinding. I don't really do a huge amount of dilithium grinding now for a couple of reasons. Number one, I've got about 220,000 unrefined dilithium in the bank, so I don't really see a need to. And also I don't feel like it's the most important grind in the game. I think that energy credits grinding is way more important. Anyway, the first thing we're going to look into is the dilithium mining event mission that you can do. It's not an event mission really, it's a daily mission that you can do. You just head out into the Beta Ursulai sector, and the first thing that I'm going to do here, you'll see that I've got double projectile weapon officer. I'm actually going to remove one and I'm going to add in an astrometric scientist who gives me a 60% chance of collecting an additional particle trace should I happen to mine one out, and you can mine one out in this game. Apologies for leaving the loading screen in, but there you go. And yep, we're now into this area, and you do need a pressure suit for this. I am currently wearing one. I just don't have the animation on unless it's pressurized. So out to the airlock we go, and this is pretty much just a mini game that you can see here, very similar to what the or what you do with the Romulan missions. And I would just advise, again, just use a keyboard here. Don't try and use the arrows. Keyboard is a heck of a lot easier. The score you're looking for here is if you hit 735, you will hit maximum dilithium, which is 200. And if you're doing the dilithium daily event, which there is, you will get 300 when you do that. If you hit 775 or higher, you will trigger the max reward, which is again 200 or 300 dilithium, and it's also a particle trace, so you can actually get a pretty decent reward from doing what is a pretty simple quest that's only going to take you 10-15 minutes. There we go, 855. It's a pretty low score for me really, but as you can see I've also got two rare particle traces. Now there is a second part to this which you can see here, and this is where I feel that energy credits grinding is just better than dilithium grinding, because dilithium grinding kind of feeds off all the other grinding that you can do. It's really it's really not too difficult to do, and I have several rich mining claims basically from busting open lockboxes. Now from those of you who do know what lockboxes are, yes, I do realise they're minus EV, but they do make they do make everything that little bit easier. And again, it's just the same mini game once again, and if you hit 735, there you go, 5,000 dilithium. So we've already got sort of 3/4 of our daily grind on already done just from that one mission. So as you can see, that's why I don't do too much grinding. Secondly, that we're doing here, we're going to do the trailer system satellite repair. It's a fairly simple, pretty simple mission overall. It doesn't take too long, and it's just a easy way to get 500 or 480 dilithium. It's located in the Eta Eridani system here. So we're just going to set course for that, and here we are in the system. And you basically have to do things in the order that I tell you here, otherwise you're going to make the mission be much longer than it needs to be, and that's just really a pain in the ass. So the first thing you do is scan this satellite, and then you do what I do here in exactly the same order. So at first, and then we replace the damaged fuses. We're going to move on to alter the electroplasma flow rate, and then we're going to initialize subspace dampening field. If you do this in the incorrect order, you'll actually break the satellite. That won't cause a mission failure or anything. All you'll have to do is you will basically just have to add an extra, essentially a fetch quest as part of this mission. Same again with this second satellite, just do what I'm doing, just go from top to bottom here, and then nothing bad should happen. It's only really on the third satellite where this mission retains really any interest whatsoever, but again, it's just a really quick way of just grabbing 400 or 500 dilithium if you really need to go ahead and do so. Looks like I'm having a little bit of trouble here. Oh no, there we go. And now we're just going to go on to the third satellite, and this is where things get a little bit more interesting, because they couldn't just have a really simple scan and fetch quest, although there are a couple of those, certainly when you're doing exploration missions, but most of the missions do at least have some sort of action in them. So I beamed over a team to the satellite, and yep, the True Way have appeared. For those of you who don't know, the True Way are essentially a splinter group of Cardassians and Jem'Hadar actually, who support the Old Ways essentially, even though the Old Ways got Cardassia bombed into oblivion at the end of the Dominion War, but I suppose some people just can't let go of a bad idea. And it's 2 Galore class cruisers here. It does change around a little bit. Sometimes you'll get a Jem'Hadar cruiser there as opposed to a Galore class ship, but for a level 50 character they're not going to be too much of a problem. Second wave coming in here, it's 3 Jem'Hadar attack ships, which is actually pretty strong for the second wave. Many times there'll be a Hideki class ship or something like that in there, but again, these guys really aren't going to be too much trouble for a level 50 ship or anyone who's really that experienced. And sayonara baby on this front. So that's them dealt with, and I did summon my holographic ships, including one of them being a Prometheus. That's actually got quite a low chance of happening. In fact, I summoned 2 escorts there. I'm not too sure the chances of that are very high, so I may have just blown a pretty decent roll there. But anyway, that's that done, and it's 480 dilithium in the bank, so let's move on and see what's next. Well, what is next, in fact, is the Explore Strange New Worlds, which I am pretty sure that everyone in Star Trek Online has seen. It is pretty much a mission just to explore one of the side-off sectors, which haven't been included in Federation space or anything else like that. The best one, I think, is probably Delta Valanis. The reason for that is that it's closest to Earth's starbase, and if you do want to scan these anomalous energy readings, if you really can be bothered doing something like that, you know, if you've got an awful lot of time on your hands, you can go ahead and grind these. And these basics, like radiation samples, etc., they're probably the most expensive ones if you're looking to sell them on the auction house. Anyway, here's the first appearance of ground combat in this game. I have to admit I'm not a huge fan of ground combat in this game, but I thought I'd leave this in to show you, 1, what it looks like, and 2, just how utterly terrible I am at it. And I am really bad at this. In fact, the Romulan reputation system has 5 ground missions, and I think the third one I wiped my team something like 20 times before I finally managed to win. I basically just Ramboed it, which isn't really the cleverest thing to do, and in fact I might go back and display those missions just so you guys can laugh at me. But the main idea behind most of the ground missions is that you have to reach some consoles or something along those lines, or just do something, and there's generally enemies in the way which will try and make things difficult for you. As you can see, I have decided that the best thing to do in ground combat is not to use any special abilities whatsoever and just stand in the same place getting shot at. As I said, I'm pretty much terrible at this. Oh, we've got the "you're about to die" screen already. Okay, I'm just going to stand here going toe to toe. Again, this isn't the best thing to do by any stretch of the imagination. However, I will improve as the mission goes on. That was pretty awful, but as you can see, wasn't really that badly hurt. You can see me controlling the rest of my away team there. I can set markers to tell them where to go, and I can also tell them to attack my target. And the computer isn't as stupid about using as many abilities as I am. There's one of my abilities. It basically sets everything, it causes an explosion and sets everything on fire. I have the electrogravitic field here, which is a hold, and I have a radiation ability, which is just a dot, and I have a couple of debuffs as well. So mainly just a support character. I can't really throw out huge amounts of DPS. The explosion plus set stuff on fire is actually quite useful, and I have several bridge officers which reduce the cooldown on it, but aside from that, my roles mainly support dots, debuffs, that sort of thing. My technicians, one of them is basically just a turret technician, throws down phaser turrets, I believe, and also throws down quantum mortars, which basically just fire quantum torpedoes into the air, and they eventually come down after a very large amount of time. I've got one science guy set up as a healer, another set up as basically dots and holds, and I also have a tactical guy set up. So it's a fairly balanced away team overall. But the one thing I would say is that in order to defeat the harder missions, you generally have to load them up with shield regenerators and hypo sprays. As you can see here, you can actually scan anomalous readings here as well. But if you do that, the computer tends to be a little bit like a kid in a sweet shop and will use like full hypo sprays to heal any sort of damage, and it can be a little bit annoying. One of the best things I suppose you can do is give them small hypo sprays. If they're going to use them immediately, you might as well give them the cheapest ones. You can see him making quantum mortars there, making lots of quantum mortars, and it will eventually come down. I'm pretty sure it'll come down after everything is dead. There you go, boom. So yeah, limited usability, but I suppose on things like bosses and other high level stuff, it just if you can fix them in place, it means that you can do quite a lot of damage to them. It also does cause pretty much a knockdown pretty much always when you use it, so I suppose it's quite useful. You can see me using the scan feature here. You just press B for that. It tells you where to go the vast majority of the time, because you can get turned around on away missions quite easily. But this is the last of the surveillance systems, and that's the end of this mission. Now, I would show you the remainder of the 3 missions that you have to do in the Explore Strange New Worlds, but they were pretty much copy-paste of this one. So what I'm going to do is just wind forward, and here we are in the last battle of the final mission. I'm up against a Widrab captain, and I'm just basically doing my old dots and debuffs and holds and all that sort of thing, and eventually he's going to go down. And there we are, I've finished the Explore Strange New Worlds, and that will get me 1440 dilithium, so I would pretty much at this point have max dilithium for the day. Especially when you consider duty officer systems and all sorts of other things that I can potentially use to get dilithium. But I'm going to show you a few other ways to get dilithium, because obviously you're going to want to be able to choose between the things you want to do, and not all of you are going to have access to lockboxes yet, especially if you're not level 50. This is the simplest grind in the game. Well, maybe not the simplest, it might be the second simplest actually. It's the law exam at Starfleet Academy. And it's as easy as you would imagine it is. It's pretty much everything that was written in the path to 2409, and you get asked a question on it, and if it's right you get 480 dilithium. Again, can only be done once a day, so don't think of just chaining it together. Or it might be 20-hour cooldown rather than 24, but you get the idea. The first one that I took there was 101, just to activate this computer. You can see you get a data chip from it. You just use the data chip, and it gives you an accolade, and that accolade means that you can just look at all your accolades, and you can get answers to the questions from that. Alternatively, you can just go to a website online or whatever if you don't know the answer, and usually the STO wiki is pretty good with that. In this case, the answer to this question is Makar, so if you get that, just do it again. As you can see, there was a bit of a skip there, so I may have had to look it up. May not, you'll never know. I might just have spirited everyone away there. But there you go, 480 dilithium, and we'll continue on for the next grind. And the next grind is aiding the Deferi. Now, this is very similar to the Explore Strange New Worlds idea, except that it is pretty much entirely space-based. I believe there are a couple of other Deferi missions if you really want to do them, but to be fair, as I said, I'm not a huge fan of doing missions just for dilithium. In fact, I almost never do this, but that again is limited due to the fact that I have the dilithium mining claims, which get me 5,000 dilithium. And we basically just have to go through here and scan for the Deferi transports. We'll get distracted by shiny things otherwise, as you can see here. I think you pick up a couple of terraforming systems off the Deferi transports when you scan them, but more importantly what's going to happen is that the Breen are going to spawn in. You know, the Breen in this game, for some reason I just find them incredibly obnoxious. It's like, yeah, we attacked Earth in the Dominion War and we destroyed Starfleet headquarters. It's like, congratulations on causing almost no casualties, sacrificing a huge amount of your fleet to do it. And you know that war? Yeah, you lost it. So, really, they've not really got a huge amount to brag about. It's like, congratulations on causing some damage and kicking over a couple of our sand castles. We sort of killed you badly. Anyway, their frigates are no more powerful than normal frigates. The Breen tend to use quite a few science abilities, things like energy drains, tractor beams, as you saw there. So you have to be a little bit on your guard against them for sure. They're not tremendously easy. They also use, I believe it's transphasic torpedoes that they use, and before you all start having heart attacks remembering the final episode of Voyager where where Voyager was able to take out Borg cubes with one transphasic torpedo. They're not exactly on the same. They're not exactly on the same strength level anymore. They're distinctly weaker than quantum and photon torpedoes, I believe. The only advantage transphasic torpedoes have that I'm aware of is that they, I think it's 40% of their damage goes through shields or something along those lines. They're shield penetrating torpedoes, essentially. As you can see, using the energy drain there didn't really do him much good. I have pretty good power insulation, to be honest. It's one of the things that I was pretty careful when building my ship to make sure that it was as efficient with power as possible. Because if you're using a beam boat build like I am, you really need to keep your weapon power high, because if you don't, your beam shots will end up doing pretty much no damage. So you'll see me, even when I'm at sort of 100 weapon energy or things, occasionally I'll pop a weapon battery or use emergency power to weapons, because I've got to keep that as high as possible. One more ship I've got to scan for here. Yep, here we go, and there's one more Breen ship as well. And it's a cruiser, again, not a huge deal. This is the Breen ship that you'll probably be most familiar with from Deep Space Nine. He's just hit me with subnucleonic beam, which is one of my least favourite abilities to get hit by in the game. Reasoning for that being that there's no counter to it that I'm aware of, and it basically negates the entire purpose of my ship, because my whole idea is to keep stuff on almost constantly off cooldown. And subnucleonic beam increases your cooldowns massively, so it really is sort of the hard counter to the build that I'm looking to use here. So I'm never really a fan when I get hit by it. Borg assimilation's another one that I'm not a fan of getting hit by either. But we just need to make our way back to the Deferi outpost, contact them, and that's the end of this mission. You can trade in some of your stuff at the supply depot if you want to, some spare industrial replicators or whatever, but I almost never bother with that. A lot of the time you can just be better off selling stuff on the auction house or the exchange, just because you will get more than what a trader will pay you for it, and whoever's buying it off you will pay less than what a trader wants for it, so it's generally good for both of you. Again, we've got another Chalgret warship here. I think those heavy plasma torpedoes are going to go straight through the gap in its shields. Oh no, it looks like they impacted the shields, but it didn't really do him too much good either way. And just a few more frigates here. Again, this is just very much a go to this location and kill a load of Breen ships sort of mission, and I'm almost always happy enough to reply, because for some reason I just don't like the Breen whatsoever. I think they're using Polaron weapons here. Polaron weapons can deal damage to your power system, so again it's the same sort of thing that they were doing earlier, and that they're known for in the series, where they just damage your ships as much as possible, or they damage your energy more than anything else. It's not like their ships are that strong, it's just that they take away or try to take away your ability to fight back. But none of these Breen ships on their own are a threat to a Sovereign class starship, so take that for what it's worth. I'm just chucking a few things in the replicator here because I'm running out of room. I can get them back later should I wish to, but batteries and things are just so common that I don't really see a need to. Yeah, you can see the transphasic torpedo just doing a bit of bleed damage there through the shield, but my hull regeneration takes care of it pretty quickly, without even triggering the bug autonomous regeneration sequence. So, you know, the torpedoes just genuinely aren't that powerful. There might be the Breen set does have a couple of transphasic torpedo launchers in it, and I think the set increases transphasic torpedo damage, so it's possible you could build something around that, but I think there are just way superior builds. I do have the Breen set should I ever be bothered using it, but I don't think I will be. Unfortunately, my plasma torpedo's impacting shields there, but they did set it on fire quite nicely. And we've got one more group of frigates to find here. Yeah, that's sending me into deep space, so it's obviously not there. As you can see on the map, it just tells you the area where everything is, so I'm just going to flip round and see it. Well, flip round in the case of a Sovereign class starship is a bit of a misnomer, because there's no way that this thing does anything quickly in terms of movement. But here's the last Breen ship, and I'm just going to deal with him like I dealt with everything else that came round here. Same thing again, he's using energy drain. And you can see it's not really a big deal as far as my systems are. Yeah, it's a bit of an inconvenience, but it's not really stopping me from kicking his ass, and that's why I don't really consider the Breen to be a huge threat. For something to be a threat to a ship like mine in this game, I think at the moment it basically has to be either sort of a huge swarm, or it has to be a ship almost like a Romulan warbird, where it has the ability to just instantly overwhelm you. Sort of damage over time abilities just aren't going to do anything to a cruiser. Now, in the meantime, the things that I've done with my ship, or at least I have done shortly, I've got myself the Mark 12 Riemann shield, so I now have about 11,500 shields. Yeah, it's a trap. In need of aid, lower our shields and he can... How about I set you on fire using anti-protons and kick your ass worse than you got kicked in the Dominion War? How does that sound to you? Do you accept that offer? I mean, it seems like you should, since you are currently on fire, your shields are collapsing, and I'm just beaming the hell out of you. Yeah, nice, you're using Polaron weapon, whatever, die. Here we go. Man, how the hell can they miss with transphasic torpedoes? They're not really doing well on that front, are they? Makes you wonder, where did they get transphasic torpedo technology from? Because I'm pretty sure they were using plasma torpedoes or something similar. They were at least green in DS9, I'm pretty sure. Again, this is just an ambush, we've just got to destroy 5 ships. Yeah, as I was saying, I've got the Riemann Mark 12 shield now, as opposed to the Mark 11 I was wearing. The very rare version. So it's increased my shield capacity by about 2,000 on each side, so it was well worth getting. I was hoping to have the Mako shield done first, but I haven't really been bothered with doing a lot of grinding recently, so The only thing I had left to do on that shield was dilithium, so it was literally just a case of logging in once a day and pumping it into the crafting, whereas the Mako shield I have to do some Omega Mark grinding for, and I haven't really had too much time for that recently, although obviously I will do some for a future video because those STFs can be quite fun. And we've only got a couple of Breen ships to go here. This one warship. One piece of advice I would have, you might see me blasting in at full impulse into these fights. That's not a good idea at all. I didn't this time. I slowed way down outside it, and the reason for that is that when you're at full impulse, you transfer power from everywhere that isn't your engines to your engines. So if you go in at full impulse and open fire, you're going to have really low weapon power when you open fire. So the best thing for you to do is literally just stop about 12 kilometers away from the ship, probably a bit more, depends how fast you're going, it might even be 15, and literally just let yourself slow down and let your weapon power build up again. Now, because I have emergency power to auxiliary and emergency power to weapons, I tend to ignore this a little bit, but just in terms of if I felt that what I was facing was a genuine threat, I would not be so reckless with the way that I'm charging in, but there's nothing here that's going to do any sort of damage to my ship, really. And that's the last of them, and that's the Aiding the Deferi Daily complete. So we can move on to a couple of very short last things that I can show you with regards to grinding dilithium. And the first of those two things is grind STFs and foundry missions. You're going to have to do STFs as part of your endgame anyway, and each of these is worth 480 dilithium each. I believe the elite versions of certainly these Omega Marks missions are worth 960 dilithium each, and they're repeatable hourly, so you know that's a pretty decent way of getting in dilithium. And the other way with the foundry, if you do foundry missions, if you do it during the foundry event daily, you can get almost 3,000 dilithium off one mission if you do a spotlight mission, although that can take you 45 minutes to an hour. And the final thing I want to show you is using the duty officer system. You'll see here on Deep Space Nine or on the Federation Starbase this security officer, and you have the ability to turn in contraband, and that mission takes about 4 hours to happen in the background, and you get 2,000 dilithium for every 5 contraband that you turn in. So I hope this has been useful to you guys as far as grinding some dilithium is. Here, there might be a couple of things I've missed, but I think that they're probably the major ways to get them. Personally, I'd suggest STFs, asteroid mining, and occasionally turning in contraband. See you next time, guys.